Hi, welcome to AsianAviation.com. I'm Matt Driskill in Singapore. Today we're going to take a look back at the Paris Air Show that just wrapped up this past week, and we'll take a look at the recent general meeting of the International Air Transport Association. That was held in Seoul in June. And we're also going to talk about the very important topic of women in aviation. First, the Paris Air Show. The big news is that Boeing managed to pull the rabbit out of the hat, scored a big order for 200 737 MAX planes from IAG, the holding company for British Airways. The deal, if it happens, would be worth about $24 billion, that's billion with a B, US dollars, and it's a huge win for Boeing given that the MAX has been grounded for months and there's no clear timeline for when it will be back in the air. No one expected Boeing to announce any MAX sales, given the two crashes this year and last that cast a dark, dark pall over the plane that few, if any, expect to be lifted soon. Airbus, though, is not taking things lying down. At a press conference, once the trade days at Paris had ended, Airbus said it was going to compete for the IAG deal because IAG has actually been a long-time Airbus customer. Airbus and Boeing and other makers managed to sell around 900 planes at the show. Here's a quick recap of the orders. Airbus, the European plane maker, kicked off the show by first announcing the launch of its widely anticipated A321XLR, it's a long-range version, backed that up with 27 initial orders from Air Lease Corporation. The single-aisle plane is seen as an economic solution to airlines who want to serve long distances between smaller cities, and it gathered momentum throughout the week. 50 additional XLR orders came in from American Airlines and 32 from Indigo Partners, the U.S. private equity fund that's run by airline investor Bill Frank. Other buyers of the XLR included Lebanon's Middle East, Philippines' Cebu Pacific Airlines, Qantas Airways, and British Airways parent IAG. The A320 and the A321neo, the new engine option on which the XLR is based, also proved popular with Airbus signing deals with China Airlines, Cebu Pacific, and Saudi Arabian Airlines. Virgin Atlantic signed up to 14 wide-body A330neos, said it would look at an option to buy 6 more. Virgin says that it sees the expansion of Heathrow in London as an opportunity to become a second flag carrier out of the UK after British Airways. The contract value of the deals is not really released, but prices before discount for Airbus looks to have exceeded $35 billion US dollars. For Boeing, the American plane maker started off the show saying it had sold 20 of its 787-9s and 787-10s, the Dreamliners, to Korean Air, and that was the first plane sale for Boeing since March. Other orders came from China Airlines, which bought 6 777 freighters, and Qatar, which bought 5 777 freighters. Then came the surprise announcement of the show when Boeing said it had snagged an order for 200 737 MAX planes. Industry players believe IAG more than likely got a huge discount on the list price of $24 billion, and they also noted that the deal was actually a letter of intent and not a firm order. There were other deals for Boeing with GECAS for 10 737-8 converted freighters and a commitment by Air Lease to buy 5 wide-body 787 Dreamliners. It's hard to be certain of the true sales value because of the discounts and those kinds of things that go on, but after the IAG Rescue Act, the list price for Boeing, like Airbus, looks to have hit around $35 billion US dollars. Brazil's Embraer got into the game. They announced a deal to sell 15 of its E195 E2 jets to KLM. The Dutch airline plans to use the plane on its sister airline, Cityhopper, and they've also got an option to buy 20 more. Based on that catalog pricing, the firm has taken orders of 78 aircraft that are worth about $4.6 billion during the Paris Air Show. The Japanese plane maker Mitsubishi also got into the act, saying that it's in discussions with an unnamed U.S. airline over the sale of its recently renamed SpaceJet M100 aircraft. They said that the narrow-body regional plane should be ready for the market in 2023. Moving all the way down in size, the Israeli startup Aviation said it was shaking up the airline industry with the launch of its 9-passenger all-electric plane. The battery-powered plane has yet to begin flight testing, but it's already got a buyer. The U.S. regional airline Cape Air said it was set to buy a double-digit number of the planes, which has a list price of around $4 million each. First deliveries of the Evasion are set for 2022. 2022. Now then, IATA, the International Air Transport Association, they had their annual general meeting in June in Seoul, lovely city. And it's rarely an event that surprises. It's very well scripted. I happened to be at the last meeting in Seoul, which did actually provide a surprise or two, not for really what happened, but ironically for what was left unsaid in a couple of instances. At last year's IATA's meeting in Sydney, Akbar al-Bakr, the CEO of Qatar Airways and the outgoing chairman, he's actually the ex-chairman now of IATA, who's also known as Mr. Controversial, he was barely 10 minutes into his chairman's role in Sydney when he made comments that were widely perceived as insulting to women in the roles or the lack of roles they play in global aviation. That led to a global outcry and an eventual apology by Bakr and Qatar Airways. At this year's AGM in Seoul for IATA, Bakr was virtually silent when a reporter asked IATA's leadership panel if the association was doing enough to promote women in aviation. IATA's Director General, Alexander Dejuniak, took the lead and pointed to the fact that the association had one woman on the stage this morning, and that was in the form of the association's corporate secretary, and said the association had 2 female board members, but did admit that it's a long-term issue and the association needs to improve. Bakr was looking a little more than a bit uncomfortable. He declined to address the question from the reporter directly, but he did remind everyone in the room that Qatar Airways was sponsoring 3 IATA awards to recognize leadership in diversity and inclusion. Those awards were actually very fun to watch when they were given out. The first one is the Inspirational Role Model Award that goes to a woman over 30 who holds a senior position within the industry and who has had a significant impact on the aviation agenda through her strong contribution to business delivery, as well as her ongoing support for the gender diversity agenda. This year's winner was Christine Ormies-Widener, the CEO of Flybe. The other 2 awards went to a young high flyer to recognize a woman under 40 who has started to develop her career and thought leadership in the industry through her inspirational work. That award, which you'll hear more about at the end of this podcast, went to Fadimatu. I'm probably not pronouncing this right, but Fadimatu Simo. She's the founder and president of the Young African Aviation Professional Association. The final award was the Diversity and Inclusion Team Award that is designed to recognize an airline that has seen a tangible change in their diversity as a result of the work it has been doing in diversity and inclusion. The winner this year was Air New Zealand. Now, each award category comes with prize money that's worth $25,000 for each award, and that's funded by Qatar. As I said, it was kind of interesting this year at IATA, and we're going to give winning the Irony Award for the AGM was IATA itself, which despite holding its AGM in Asia, in one of the world's most connected cities, and with Asia-Pacific being the fastest-growing aviation market in the world, they actually decided to leave Asia off the list of regions for which it gave specialized or individual media briefings. The association had sessions on Latin America and the Caribbean, Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, but not one session was devoted specifically to Asia. When asked why IATA was silent on the topic, the regional vice president for Asia-Pacific, Conrad Clifford, said he actually didn't know why the association had developed its agenda that way in the briefing lineup. And then there was a PR official for IATA when asked the same question, he actually said it was, quote, not necessary to hold a separate briefing, adding Asia was too big and had too many issues to deal with in a single briefing. He later, at a cocktail party, came up to me and he actually tried to walk back his not necessary comment and said the association was concerned about Asia and was holding private briefings on the region, but only with Chinese press. Go figure. Anyway, finally, the topic, we talked a little bit about women in aviation earlier, and the magazine is coming out with a special supplement in the July-August issue of Asian Aviation Magazine, and we're going to look at companies from around the region that are playing active roles in promoting gender parity and gender diversity in their workplace. But as I mentioned earlier, the Young High Flyer Award at the IATA meeting was given to Fadimatu Simo. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but thank God they call her Fadi for short, as she is known. Her speech in accepting the award was really something to see, and it was really inspiring. And I think more women in the world and more young women, more girls need to see the speech, and I highly recommend that you stick around because after we close this podcast, we're gonna present her speech in its entirety. Well, that's it for me, Matt Driskill in Singapore. As I said, stay tuned to hear Fadi's inspiring words, and be sure to check back in with us again on AsianAviation.com.
Determination of this winner and how she has been inspiring future generations, so excited and so committed. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please join me in congratulating Fadimatu, or Fadi, as the winner for High Flyer Award. This is heavy. Very inspirational. Thank you for the work you do, huh? Very inspirational.
Thank you.
Very heavy. I'll leave you now. Say some words.
I will want to keep you on stage with me.
Huh?
I will want to keep you on stage with me, right?
Okay, sure.
I had to prepare a speech, but writing down, I might have missed my words. So I want to share exactly the feeling that I have from the heart. I would start by thanking IATA for initiating diversity and, excuse me, for this initiative of the Diversity and Inclusive Award, simply because I am a woman who joined aviation 9 years ago. I was born in the city and I studied in the rural area just because school learning English was in that area. And I remember my mom telling me, if you don't speak English in the future, you won't have a place. And knowing about aviation 9 years ago, I was very concerned with the fact that being at school, I never had an opportunity to know about what aviation was and the importance that aviation has in the development of all economies. So I was privileged to join the startup of my national airline. And I found out that something needed to be done because we all know aviation in Africa is still in progress. And I said, we need to start from the roots. I couldn't fight those before me. I couldn't change those with me. But by inspiring the next generation and creating a platform of exchange between inspiring people like Gloria and all of you professionals here, and having the support of all the organizations in Africa, AFRA, AFCAC, IATA, supporting me each time I had this idea of creating a platform to create exchange between the professionals and the youth. They always reached out and said, your idea is not stupid. So thank you very much for all those who in respective conferences have in one way or the other inspired me by making me understand that I was on the right track. I got special mentor from a very inspiring woman, Funke from IATA, who always ran out each time I said I was doing a youth event in a school. I cannot forget the very first Youth Aviation Forum that I held in 2016. I was very afraid because it was the 50th anniversary of Cameroon, and we had the Youth Week, and I said I wanted to make a strike. So I reached out to IATA and I said, please, I'm organizing the first Youth Aviation Forum for Africa. Even though I cannot pay for your transport, I need you to make a speech. And this was amazing because IATA rushed out, and I had Raphael Kuchi joining me with Funke, Fabrice Sairi, and Sidi. Just imagine the excitement I had for my whole government to see the little girl, as they call me, bring in these professionals. And that changed the life of many youths in Africa. Africa is 54 African states. And the Young African Aviation Professional Association builds the bridges between these 54 states. And getting this award today is not for Cameroon. It's a sign that the Africans from the 54 states, with its diversity, are concerned and will be included in the evolution of aviation. We are all aware of the fact that Africa is the current and the future market for all aviation stakeholders who are here. You all come and see us, but we are ready and prepared to support you, to include you in our development, because we need the exchange of technology. We know you are all interested in seeing aviation prosper, but we too are part of the world. And all of us are ready in our respective activities, and we reach out to you through our different forums and projects like the IATA Act for Change or the IATA community centers we are about to put, to give the opportunity to these underprivileged kids or those who are passionate about aviation and who don't have the possibility of joining the industry, because with passion, we can cross mountains. I want to give a special thanks to Qatar Airways for giving us the opportunity to have the $25,000 US. You just can't imagine the number of school bags or the number of computers or the number of screens that we're gonna have to enable these kids dream by having the flight simulation and seeing that they can become pilots, or having an overview of what an airport can offer, or taking these kids going around the airport when they can't even afford every day to get a proper breakfast or lunch. Yet, the passion of being educated, the passion through technology of seeing what is happening elsewhere and having them involved is the best thing we will offer them through our community center with the money we're gonna receive. With this said, if I have to talk, it will be for the whole day. I have a whole continent waiting for me. I'm gonna take this award to the 5 regions of Africa, because we are working for a united Africa, Northern Africa, Southern Africa, Eastern Africa, Western Africa, and Central Africa, from where I come. Thank all of you.